plant out of place. In that situation, it may be a problem as a weed, but for us, it has lot of beneficial uses, especially under natural farming. We can use weed for mulching or for making the organic residues, and we can incorporate again back to the field. So, among different categories of weeds, farmers mainly encounter few weeds. I would like to show those weeds. First one is Cynodon dactylon. This is very problematic weed, grassy weed. The fact that it is problematic mainly because these are all perennial weeds. You can see Cypress rotundus. This is one more problematic weed, and even in present day agriculture with so many options, we have so many herbicides coming every year. So many companies are working, but still the problem of cypress and cynodon and one more weed, that is oxalis, is unsolved. It remains as a problematic weed, and many farmers will approach you asking the solution for this. So here also we can discuss weed management in natural farming in two perspectives. One is in case of plantation crops, another is in case of field crops. As such, we have 3 years of experience in natural farming, thanks to Government of Karnataka and Department of Agriculture and our universities, agriculture and horticulture universities, who provided sufficient fund to take up research on all the multidisciplinary aspects of natural farming. And for the past 3 years, we have conducted few experiments, and earlier there was a notion that natural farming is more suited to plantation crops. Yeah, definitely, because the buildup of microorganisms and the buildup of soil beneficial organisms takes time. And for perennial crop, the loss in economic yield or the loss is not so much when we start with natural farming. But we also conducted few demonstrations in the farmers field, taking field crops also, especially field crops situated to different agroclimatic zones. And for us, finger millet, red gram, maize, then pulses like green gram, black gram, these crops we have selected, and we have conducted few experiments. So now natural farming is also possible in these field crops, but with a buildup of microorganisms, slowly the yield reduction will be reduced. First, to conclude, whatever the results we got in field crops, I would say the yield reduction in case of field crops like finger millet, or we have a rice, direct seeded rice situation, and we have a maize, the yield reduction is to the tune of 30 to 45% for the first 3 years. But slowly, the other benefits of natural farming, like improvement in the soil biological and physical and chemical properties, and also the environmental benefits accrued over the years through practice of natural farming, will definitely outweigh the demerits. So we are in a stage of economic quantification of the ecological benefits. I would say the natural farming can also be adopted in field crops. But in field crops, the problem of weed management becomes very severe. How to manage the weeds? See, for us, crop is one, but weeds are many. You all know there are so many categories of weeds, grasses, sedges, broadleaf weeds, which are so problematic, and we have to tackle this multiple weed problem in single crop where we take single, like we can take maize, we can take rice, we can take field this one finger millet or green gram, black gram, cowpea, oil seeds like groundnut, sunflower. So the crop is one, but the weeds are many. In that dimension, we have to think how to manage these weeds. And in perennial crops, the management of weeds becomes easy, because here the crop would have established itself, and the losses caused by weeds may not have so much of detrimental effect on the crop. But in field crops, since we have a short season and we have to get maximum productivity or return, so the weed management assumes greater significance. So I would just go about few weeds which are problematic. This we call it as Echinoclova colonna and Echinoclova glabrescens. Yeah, and Echinoclova crusgully. This itself is called as mimicry weed because it resembles the rice plant. And until 45 to 50 days, even a experienced worker will not be in a position to uproot these because they resemble each other. Like that, we have the in recent years you might have noticed there is a phenomena called weed shift. Earlier, this Alternanthera sessilis or Alternanthera phylloxeroides, it was a minor weed. But today, you can notice whenever you travel over distance, all the this roadside or wherever irrigation channels or water runs, this weed has become a problematic weed. Similarly, this Marsalia, it is also problematic weed. And this is Cypress, Cypress deformis, which is a very problematic weed, field crops, and also especially in paddy also. And Monocoria vaginalis and Centella asiatica. I would like to see this weed management in this perspective. Like, management is something which can we can make use of these weeds for our own benefit. So that also becomes a management. It is not that management means only destruction or we have to destroy the weed, but this can also be taken for our beneficial uses. So few weeds which can also be consumed and which can be used for our benefits. I would like to list a few. Like, this is Centella asiatica. You all know this is called as brain tonic. It can, if we consume daily one leaf of this weed, it will give more memory power. And so many advantages are there. It can also we can come out of the problem of anemia or less hemoglobin. So this is one more weed, Ageratum conizoides, more found in perennial crops and also gardens. So this has got some medicinal plants, like it is antiseptic in nature and it checks bleeding. And so many, it is also used for expelling parasitic worms. Then Borrelia articularis. See, this feed I will see in the perspective of this can be used as a good fodder for our milch animals, especially natural farming comprises of a desi cow. And desi cow we can make use, and this weeds can also be used for mulching, this one for fodder purpose. And mulching can also be done with this type of weed, which will help us to conserve the moisture and one way preventing the weed emergence. So this is one more weed, Celosia argentea. This is very good source of protein and it is consumed by people like leafy vegetable. It is very rich in calcium, iron, and it is used to treat eye problems also. Then we have Argemone mexicana and Cyprus. The problematic weed, you can see this is called WWW, World Worst Weed. Not only India, everywhere this weed is a problematic weed, and to manage this, we have to devise the strategies. So this also has got few benefits, like it can be used to treat leprosy, fever, and then stomach disorders. Then cynodon dactylon, we know this can be used as a good fodder also, and it helps in lowering the cramps and hypertension and clear stones. So these three problematic weeds, I can say one belongs to grass, that is cynodon, another is cypress, and one more is, you might have noticed, this is called Oxalis latifolia or Oxalis corniculata. It is something like a bulb. It comes, and when we pass through few implements or intercultural operations we do, so this splits, and each bulb gives rise to a new plant. So this is one more problematic weed in plantation crops. And we have some grassy weeds also which can be used for consumption fodder purpose. So this is called Digitaria marginata and Commelina bengalensis, then Acanthospermum hispidum, then we have Mimosa pudica, then we have Eleusine indica. This is one more mimicry weed which resembles finger millet. Then we have Leucus aspera. Then we have this Euphorbia hirta. Okay, the Calotropis gigantiae, then Philanthus niruri. So this is the most wanted plant during COVID time. So COVID time, doctor used to advise take more of vitamin C and drink hot water. So this plant is very rich in vitamin C, and it serves many other purposes: low thirst, cooling effect, bronchitis, leprosy, anemia, urinary discharge, jaundice. So that's why I told weed is not an unwanted plant. Weed is a plant out of place. At that time, it may not be needed, but it has got so many multiple uses which can be used, and we can overcome those with the management. So Chromolena odorata, this I will give a lot of importance. So this is called a communist weed also, and it is commonly called Eupatorium. The main purpose, or the why it should be given more importance, is the percentage of nitrogen it contains. It is having 1 to 1.5% nitrogen and 1% phosphorus and 0.5 to 0.8% potassium. See, imagine we do this FIM, or we do other composting techniques, and the amount of nitrogen in it is 0.25 to 0.5% maximum. But this is a weed which is having 1 to 1.5% nitrogen, and this can also be used for nutrient supplement in our cropping systems. Then we have one more weed, Ipomia cornea, which is a wasteland weed, and it is having no practical importance. But we can make use of these weeds for our mulching purpose, because one of the main pillars of natural farming is also mulching. So mulching can also uh, reduce the weed infestation, and this is the weed I would like to suggest, where if somebody wants to cut, it is available and nobody will prevent you. So this type of weed we can put in between the crop rows, and we go on putting Jivamruta. So definitely it gets decomposed there itself, and the percent of nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium it is going to add to the soil is enormous. So these type of weeds we should target, and this is one type of management also. So then Eichhornia crassifers, of course, this may not be a problematic weed in natural farming, but for water bodies, it is a very problematic weed. And then see, you can see the water contaminated with so many weeds: Eichhornia crassifers, alternanthera, or Ipomia. Okay, and one more weed, Lantana camera. Okay, this may not be of so problematic weed for the farmer, but I am showing this with the problem it causes in the forest ecosystem. Mainly 4 to 5 years back in Karnataka, we had forest fire like Bandipura and Nagarole. The main culprit, or the main reason for this forest fire is Lantana camera, because during summertime all the leaves will fall off and the dried stem we can see, and if a small this fire can be a problem for this. Okay, okay. So generally, so losses caused by weeds, of course, the yield loss is 25 to 80% range, and 80% in case of parasitic weeds. Then nutrient loss. So we should give utmost importance for weed management, mainly because 30 to 50% of the nutrients in the soil are drained by weeds. And then moisture. So the moisture nowadays you can see we are passing through a very tough stage. No rains and farmers are facing problem. They even maize they are harvesting for fodder purpose. So there is no grain setting. So such case the moisture assumes greater importance, and weeds, if we manage the weeds well, we can avoid these losses. Then sunlight, the sunlight competition for sunlight is more from weeds for a crop, because weeds will grow taller and they will shade the plant, and ultimately the crop will have lesser sunlight and it will have lesser photosynthesis. Less photosynthesis means the branches or the growth of the plant itself is affected and the yield gets reduced. Then reduction in the quality of the produce. So mainly if you go for cultivation of horticulture crops like onion, or we have tomato, or we have brinjal, like that. So the quality of the produce gets a good grading, even potato. So when the quality is good, the rate will be good. So when weeds in competition will reduce the quality of the produce. Then in fact when we go for ultimate the produce, the nutrient content of the produce also gets affected with the weed competition, because the plant may not be in a position to take up more nutrients, and the produce we eat will be deficit in nutrients. Okay, and there are so many health effects, because parthenium, see, parthenium now it has become a community weed. In 1952, it came to India, and today we are not in a position to completely eradicate it. And it is a menace, especially in natural farming plots. You can see parthenium, and it is a very severe problematic problem. But I see a light for management of parthenium in natural farming, mainly because in modern day agriculture, we don't have the option of using this biological control agent, that is Zygogramma bicolorata, because we are so busy in using herbicides and we go for spraying pre-emergence, post-emergence, and also we apply so many plant protection chemicals. The survival of Zygogramma bicolorata becomes problem. But in natural farming, we can advocate and we can propose Zygogramma bicolorata for the management of Parthenium, because we are not using any chemicals here. So that is one more uh, lighter or good side of the this natural farming. Then we have so many pests becoming taking this arbor, or taking the shelter like echinoclova. You can see the echinoclova, it will shelter the paddy stem borer, and it becomes a major problem. So, and so many weeds, you can see Crotons parsiflorus, it is called kerosene plant, and then this parthenium, which is also a causative agent for leaf curl of tomato, because the vector white fly Bemisia tabaci lives in it and it transmits the leaf curl disease. So, okay, and we can see multiple uses of weeds. We can use it for green manuring or green leaf manuring, composting, and so many medicinal value, leafy vegetables, then fuel wood, fodder to animals, and other uses. So these are few examples. This can be consumed and this can be used for fodder purpose also. And so cider, this is having other uses. Sweep can be made and it is used. Like that, animals can consume this Celosia argentea. Then so many grassy weeds are there. So you can see the Desi breed of cow, and this is very popular breed in Karnataka. So this is grassy weeds can also be fed, and this can be used for, this is cattail type angustata. This can be used for mat preparation. And Cassia thora, yeah, this assumes greater significance in natural farming. Cassia thora or Cassia uniflora or Cassia occidentalis. So this can be used for enriching the soil also, and to overcome the problem of Parthenium. So here the principle of allelopathy operates. You can see wherever the Parthenium is in heavy this one population, we can just sprinkle few seeds of this Cassia thora or Cassia uniflora, and this seed in a phased manner, in a phase of 3 to 4 years, it will overtake Parthenium hysteroporus, mainly by releasing few allelochemicals from its roots. And what is the importance of this? I will tell you. This is a leguminous weed, and this resembles groundnut plant, and it can fix 30 to 40 kg nitrogen per season. Okay, 30 to 40 kg nitrogen in a season, 3 to 4 months means 4 months period, it can give us 2 bags of urea. So two bags of urea is equivalent to 40 kg nitrogen. And today we are not realizing the price paid for urea, although it is available at 300 rupees per bag or 310 rupees. But the subsidy given by government for every bag of urea is 2500 to 2600 rupees per bag. So in total we can say we are saving 2 bags of urea, means we are saving an amount of 3000 plus 3000 6000 rupees. And there the this type of cassia thora, or we have few other weeds I would suggest, which will enrich the soil, and it will also do the duty of controlling the weeds. So in this category we can also think of this Chromolena vadareta also. Although it is a weed, but it is not having any health effects. It is rich in nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and it can be used for mulching, or it, in case of plantation crops, this can also be grown, and it can be flowed back, which will give the nutrients again to the soil, and also we are managing the weeds. So always prevention is better than cure. So what we can do? So first one is use of weed-free seeds, especially in case of parasitic weeds, something like cuscuta. The weed seeds resemble the cuscuta, this onion seeds, and it is very necessary to observe the weed seeds, especially in case of paddy also. This Echinoclova colonna or Echinoclova crusgully seeds gets mixed with the paddy seeds, and they come up in nursery, and again we are going to transplant it to main field. So the menace will continue, and those weeds having shorter life cycle than the main crop. And this Echinoclova, what it does is it is having a shorter lifespan of 45 to 50 days. So it will shatter the seeds, and it will again fall on the ground. So there will be wheat seed bank in the soil, which is again a problematic thing. So next is we can we when we prepare this Ganajivamruta, or whenever we go for preparation of organic manures, we should make sure that it should be weed free. The surrounding area should be weed free. Otherwise, it gets contaminated, and we again put it to the main field. Then irrigation channels should be kept free from weeds, and it will avoid transportation of weeds from one place to another place. So like this, then few cultural practices are there. So that's why I told, see, Okay. Uh, Again, see, today we had so much of net problem. It is something like again I have come back to my own office and I am speaking.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, sir. It's
I
okay.
went around. I went around NSP. Then there also we tried. Okay. Now I want to discuss this aspect more. Like this is the phenomena of allelopathy. Allelopathy can be used in natural farming to the greatest extent. Few plants or few weeds which have this advantage is one is Cassia thora or Cassia uniflora. Then we have marigold. Marigold roots will give allelochemicals which will help in suppression of especially Parthenium weed. Similarly, when we want to work in natural farming, we can make one preparation like allelochemicals we can extract and we can spray for the weeds. So we tried few preparations like we can use eucalyptus. Eucalyptus leaves also has got allelopathic capacity. Then we have the wild wild tulsi that is called Iptis sualensis. Then we can use marigold and we can also make use of this Cassia thora or Cassia uniflora. And what we can do, we can prepare one solution containing all these extractants. So if we take 200 liters water, in that 200 liters water, we can put 50 kg each of Cassia thora, then eucalyptus, then we can use Iptis sualensis, then we have marigold that is called Tagetes species. Then one more plant is there called 4 o'clock plant, or it is going to flower during afternoon, and it is called Mirabilis jalapa. So these plants we can take 50 kg each and we can put it in one container having 200 liters of water, and when we go on stirring it daily morning and afternoon and then evening, and we can keep it for 15 to 20 days in that water, the extractants or the leachates will be released that we can use for spraying on the weeds. So when we get the aliquot, we can take 5 ml per liter of this and we can spray on the weeds. So this will not give 100% control. This can give us 30 to 40% good control of few weeds. But problematic weeds like cypress, cynodon are difficult to control. They may not be controlled completely. This aliquot can be used something like the concept of organic herbicide. Nowadays, it is coming in the market like organic herbicide, but this can be prepared at our own farm using Cassia thora and marigold. Next, I was telling about the use of these cultural practices. So cultural practices, we can think of this. See, I told two dimensions. One is wherever plantation crops are there or perennial crops are there, the principle of natural farming remains such that no tilling or no soil disturbance is followed. But when we go for cultivation of annual crops or our own season based crops, we need to invariably go for flowing, or we need to take up this type of cultural practices which will help us in controlling the weeds. So this is called fallow flowing or summer flowing, wherever it brings the weeds or the weed seeds from the lower or deeper layers of soil into the upper surface. So difficult to control weeds like Cypress rotundus. The tubers can be picked and they can be destroyed or they can be burnt. So and also when we do this operation of summer flowing, the birds they will eat away few of the weed seeds, and also the weed seeds gets destroyed due to the scorching heat of the sun. It is exposed to the sun and the few weed seeds get destroyed. and land preparation at proper time. Then line sowing will help us in taking up the intercultural operations at later stage of the crop. So this is wonderful. You can see the two lines, in between two lines we can pass the intercultural implement, and it uproots all the weeds. And then in the line we can either go for and weeding, so that this practice can also be adopted. And in finger millet, interculturing can be practiced. In cotton also we can do intercultural operations. And then the principle of mulching can be implied. See, when we take up intercultivation and we go for mulching, that becomes a double effect, and the weeds will not emerge, and already the crop would have taken a upper hand, and the competition from weeds gets reduced. So this is in maize. And then power tiller, and then cycle weeder. Cycle weeder means crop type we should maintain, and then irrigation channels we should keep free. And then intercropping is having more practical utility in natural farming, because the principle of natural farming also advocates intercropping with a monocrop with a dicot, so that the nutritional needs of the crop can be met out. So in case of maize, we can think in the early stages, we can go for short duration pulses, and also copy is also one best intercrop which can suppress or smother the weeds in a better way. Nowadays, lot of importance is attached to soybean crop, because the cultivation of soybean crop is fetching good returns to the farmers. So we can think of maize soybean intercropping system which will supplement each other. So the nitrogen fixed by the soybean crop can also be utilized by the maize crop, and as such there is no competition between the two plants. And when we work out the economics, the cost of cultivation of maize and the cost of cultivation of soybean, and when we come out with the real returns, we can find soybean is the more remunerative crop compared to maize, because continuous cultivation of maize is now causing severe problems, and it is also exhaustive crop, whereas soybean will be a better alternative for maize. So you can see maize plus cowpea, wonderful mechanism for weed management. You can see the interspace between the two rows can be covered with the cowpea, and it suppresses the weeds. It fixes atmospheric nitrogen, and it also, at the time of harvest, we can see the shedding of leaves by the pulses. So the leaves will add organic matter to the soil. And one more wonderful advantage with the intercropping system is, when we go for dicots as an intercrop, the natural enemies or the predators